Okay, starting now. What? How do we even
So we were
begin
at
this?
our project, some event where we just had to give a presentation, and I'm about to leave the room where I just watched Caleb's presentation or something, and he says as a passing line or something, "I'm gonna read a book" or something. I don't know. And I asked like what book, and you say like Flowers of Algernon, and I'm like, oh, what's this about? And then you say it. What did you say? It was something about.
I didn't know much. All I knew it was about a guy who turned smart and then
Yeah.
like starts like going back to his retardation and then can I even say that word?
We'll have to. Yeah.
And then eventually dies because that's what it was. But obviously now we read it, it doesn't say that he dies, but it's like implied
But
or whatever.
what?
It's like a classic.
Okay, wait. But the way you said it to me was it's a story about a guy who has low IQ, and then I don't know if you mentioned that he had a surgery or something, but you said that he becomes smarter and you sort of see his process through that. And then I made a joke of, oh, do you want to take notes? You want to say it or something?
Yeah.
I think you just laughed it off. And you said that it was a classic and like a well-known book and on all these lists of books you need to read or something. And surprisingly, I had never heard of this book, which I mean, I'm surprised by just because I feel like I'm pretty well versed in at least super classics like that. But the one night I don't know, you started reading it, you told me about it, and then you said you really recommended it. And I was like, I'm gonna be someone when you recommend, I immediately start. And I started it and oh my God. And the day after I finished it, and I had to wait for you to finish because you were busy and had a social life.
Yes.
And I had to wait a whole day. And now here we are.
We basically read the book in a weekend.
Yeah. Side note, I was calculating and I was like, it took me about 4.5, 5 hours. So it's a pretty short book. I mean,
yeah, it is a short book. Yeah.
So I don't actually know how thick the book is in real life.
Yeah. But I think it's about 200 and something pages.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a very long text, but it was very interesting, like from beginning to end. I'm trying to remember what had prompted me to read the book, but I can't anymore right now. But I'm for whatever it was, I'm glad that it had brought this realization to me because it's a very good book. A lot of people say that it's a book that made them cry. Did you cry when you read the book?
Oh my gosh, I was about to. I finished it just before I went to sleep last night, and I woke up and I wanted to text you like so much about it. I wanted to be. It was gut wrenching.
Yeah.
It was heart throbbing. It was nerve wracking. And then I was like, oh, I'm gonna wait to save all this for the podcast.
I was done at like 2 a.m. yesterday.
Yeah.
Because when I came home, I had to do like some other stuff and I started reading at like 10. But I was on call with my sister. So throughout, like I was pausing and like talking and whatever. And then like from midnight to 2, like I had time to myself just to read. And then I saw a mouse in my kitchen. And if you read that book, there's a mouse in the book.
Yeah, Algernon's a mouse.
Yeah, okay. Let's give more of like a in-depth intro to the story of the book. So there's this guy, his name is Charlie, and he's like a very dumb guy. The word the book uses moron. Like his IQ is pretty low, and so
he's medically a moron.
Yeah. And but something about him, like he has a very strong motivation to want to learn and get smart. So he goes to this adult school for like dumb people to help them like read and write and whatnot because he wants to learn to read and write and become smart.
Yeah.
Later on we find out that it's because of a traumatic childhood that he has is why he wants to be smart even in his 37 so 30 something years of age.
32?
32. And so the scientists come up with this sort of operation to help him get smart, not even just regularly smart, but exceptionally smart. They tried it on the mouse, and the mouse name is Algernon. Yeah. So
just check the name.
Checking the name, yeah. So yeah, they put him through some standard I can't talk. Psychological tests like running through a maze and
the Rorschach.
That test. Like to kind of get a baseline, and then they perform the surgery, and then he's kind of the book is all told in progress reports written by this character Charlie. And you kind of see from like the way he writes like in his early stages until when he gets super smart, and then eventually when he gets back to not being as smart, how his punctuation, his grammar, his spelling, and even like his thoughts, feelings
Yeah.
evolve and devolve like over the course of the book. So it starts in like March and then ends in December.
November.
I think it's like November.
I think so.
End of somewhere in
Yeah.
November, December. But I think the idea there is like from spring to winter, like the progression from like new growth to like blooming and like whatever in the summer to autumn being like the fall off and then winter being death.
Yeah.
Right.
The cycle of the seasons, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Already that was like, I mean, quite clever. Well, not clever, but like nice to have like just the whole timeline of events. Where do you want to start?
I am speechless by the way emotions and everything that was in between the lines were conveyed, because I think that's truly what sets this book apart from at least everything else I've read. And I'm so inclined to just rule out and group every other book I've ever read in my life as a whole, and to say that none of them have expressed emotion indirectly as well as this book has, because it's like reading his diary. Basically everything has just come out from his mouth, and it's not every day, but it's enough that it feels like it's basically every day. And you just see his entire progression from pretty much him as a child into him as an adult, eventually when he dies. Because I mean, one of the overarching storylines is that his intelligence develops as a quote unquote what a normal person would, but also exceeds that. But spoiler, it starts declining, and you are with him through it all. But the big issue that none of them had realized was that his emotional intelligence, just the time in which it takes a person to develop their emotions their entire life, does not catch up to his intelligence. And you're sort of, it feels like it's his whole lifetime, which I think the book was conveying that, because he had, it's like he hit a plateau as a child, and he just never got the opportunity to be an adult and to get smarter and to have social events and all these things. And it all just happens over what, 7, 8 months?
Yeah.
9 months? Yeah. And it's the whole human experience. It's so real and it's so relatable. And it's all just 8 months. And he experiences everything. I can't hear enough of it. This is crazy.
Did you feel like there were times, like, you know how when his emotion, his intelligence surpasses that of a normal? Do you feel that in like reading his progress reports, like from the beginning through like the middle? Like, do you feel him more or less human as like he gets to the peak and going down? Do you get that? Do you understand what I'm trying to say? But like there's a point where like it was very clear like he's a lot more just like robotic than human, in the sense that he was just like very smart, and he like felt and understood things very literally. I thought that was very interesting, because like that's, as a writer, I feel like that's very hard to convey, like differing levels of IQ. Obviously, when that's not, he doesn't have the writer himself doesn't have these varying levels. So like being able to portray that like in a legible and like digestible way, I think was very impressive.
I really liked how the author was subtle in expressing his direct intelligence. Like he never said, "Oh, I'm starting to learn more languages, and I realized that my brain can handle them." No, it was just one day suddenly you found out, oh, he read a whole book in Hindi. And which means at some point he learned Hindi. He knew, and he knew to pick up a book in Hindi, and stuff like that just blew my mind.
I want to talk about what I had highlighted throughout the book.
Yeah, okay.
And we can go through that, and then like the first thing I highlighted at the beginning, page 6, so quite early in the thing, was him saying he wanted to know the truth, and yet I was afraid of what I might learn. I thought that was very interesting, because then at the end of, or like towards the end, he says, "This is slower than my computer." He says, I can't find it. The man of the cave would say that up he went and down he came without his eyes. And that was like around the time where, remember in the end when he had the last therapy session with Dr. Strauss, and he had that
Yes.
out of world experience where it
Yes.
felt like he had like surpassed the human experience of intelligence, and had an encounter with God or whatever.
Yeah.
Like reached pure intelligence, and then he came back, and it was kind of like he wasn't the same after that, right? He stopped the therapy, he stopped all of that kind of stuff. I feel like that juxtaposition between the beginning of him like already fearing what he might learn or what he might find out, and then in the end realizing like he came down and it was like scared kind of what had happened, or like knowing now at the end. It was like a moment of like really realizing that ignorance is bliss. Because that quote is from that quote is from I think Plato, Socrates, one of them. But it's like
Plato.
something called allegory for a cave, for the cave, of the cave, something. And that whole thing again is about like when you've like gone so far and seen so much, it's very painful to then come back and like kind of pretend or like ignore that it's there. You know, when you know like how far everything goes, it's a lot harder to come back down. And I think that also showed in like him becoming smarter. It was a lot of a easier like read and experience than him regressing back to being a moron, where like he could. It was a much more of a harder read, at least for me, and it was expressed that way in the book than the beginning. I thought that was very interesting, just to begin with.
I paid a lot more attention to what I felt and related to when reading this book. So I don't remember that quote exactly, but it is some interesting foreshadowing into how it links in the end. Definitely the progression of things was that you sort of struggle a little bit to read in the beginning just because it's different. I mean, all the words are there, but they're all spelled exactly how they're pronounced, which again, wow, artistic, everything, amazing. And you follow it along, and then at least for me, there was a point exactly when he started becoming a lot like smarter than the average human. There was a point where I stopped understanding him easily, especially when he was describing his dreams, and I'm imagining that there's some interpretation there, but I just didn't have it.
His dreams, like of his memories from childhood.
Some of his like experiences, not specifically the memories though. It's specifically his dreams. Sometimes it would be someone like a maiden with red hair holding a knife or something, or he's in an alleyway and he's lost, or something like that. Over my head. And I mean that's exactly what he was, right? In the progression, that there was a point where he was smarter than all of us, and then at that point where he started declining was also where I interpreted it differently as I was reading the beginning half, because he you could see that he was feeling things and had thoughts and had clarity that as the reader you just don't understand because you're not in that position, but you can see it happening. And you can understand enough to follow along, but not exactly what he's thinking. And that was kind of crazy.
I think somewhere he mentions how like at a point language becomes like a barrier instead of a connector between people, because like if you can't use it effectively to like send your point across, then like what's the point of even using language? I thought that was very I think it was around the point where he started learning different languages. But yeah, what else did you relate to? Because I think the one, or I guess one of the more relatable ones was about like the relation with his family, right? Especially his mother, and how his mom so in the beginning she was kind of like wanting him to be normal, right? Like doing all she could and like shielding him from the world and telling him to pray to God and whatever, to
and
be
also
normal.
saying that he will be normal. He is normal.
Yeah. But then Norma, his younger sister, comes along, and then like she realizes that it's not something wrong with her; it's with the boy. Because you would imagine, like as a parent, like if something you create has some sort of what would you call a defect you would attribute to yourself and not the poor unsuspecting child. But when she realizes that it's not her fault, she kind of turns very sour towards Charlie.
Yeah.
And a lot of this starts coming up in this, should we say, what should we call this experience? His journey, his journey, and him realizing all these things. I feel like a lot of us still there's still that need for approval from our parents, right? I feel like that's the reason he even did this thing in the first place, is to prove to his mom that, hey, like they made me smart, even to the point where he's compelled to go visit her, even though he doesn't want to. He's like conflicted about that, but eventually he does go visit his mom to kind of show her like, hey, I'm smart. Look, yeah, I thought that was very powerful.
I mean, just some context to that is that as he becomes smarter and smarter, he starts recalling times from his childhood more and more.
Mm-hmm.
And he starts understanding what they mean. He initially struggles a bit, but then he eventually gets a clear picture, and he eventually also realizes that he has to see and feel how he wants to, after remembering it, because it's sort of like two events, right? Remembering is one thing, seeing how you're going to process it is another. And then, yeah, the mom was sort of always in his corner, and then the dad wasn't his biological dad, I think. This was so weird because I also wasn't sure. So the dad's name is Matt and the mom's name is Rose. And Matt, every time Matt spoke, Matt would say, your child. Norma, she would say, like they would say, our child, our daughter. But Charlie, specifically, when you're referring to him, he would say, your child. Why are you like, which I mean, I'm not sure. I also could be wrong. But it only stood out to me because eventually they switched. When Norma became harsher and harsher, Rose became meaner and meaner to Charlie. Matt eventually started becoming on Charlie's side to say, like, well, I mean, he was always sort of there. He was like, look, don't make him so scared. He was also the one that was like, okay, you're wasting time and money trying to get him smarter. But he was the one that said, you're making him tremble. Look what you're doing to him. And Rose wouldn't accept that. So yeah, very complex family dynamic.
And even with the little sister, because then when he goes back, she's like, "Oh, I'm glad he didn't forget us." For me, that made me very angry, because it seemed more like the family had forgotten him. Because even from the beginning, we were saying like, before the surgery, he was like, "Oh, I hope when I'm done, like I can go visit finally see my mom and dad and my sister."
Yeah.
Like, it seems like for him, it's never been a thing of him forgetting them, even though like he's handicapped. But like for her to say that, I was like, what the like, fair enough, okay, the mom had told her that he went to the Warren home and died, but not even to make an inquiry, like after they had come to her to sign the consent, right? For them to use him in an experiment. She didn't even like reach out to him then. Like it was kind of like, I don't know. I got very angry at that. That whole interaction with his mom and his sister, it seemed very like, I think he even mentions it in that progress report, saying like, if he was the same old Charlie, they probably would have reacted the same way that they had then. That pissed me off a lot. Another thing I think the book touches on that's very heart tugging is how they treat him, both when he's very dumb and very smart.
Yeah.
What did you think about that?
I mean, I don't think it was surprising, just because it's just never that easy. It's never that simple. He always looked at things as if they were black and white, as if very straightforward, clear solutions existed for the problems, such as, oh, as long as I can read, my family will accept me. As long as I don't know, if I read as well, if I'm able to be smarter, then I'll have friends, and it's just never that clear even in real life. So I mean, that was really more just a question of the other people's I feel like insecurity. So basically, he worked at a bakery that took care of him as like a janitor, and then the other employees would bully him.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't realize that before, but then afterwards when he came back, he thought the bullies were his friends.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he came back, he thought his friends would be happy, but no, his friends started bullying him more still, not accepting what had happened.
They had just basically turned on him. They soured towards him.
Yeah, they're like, oh, you think you're so big now, you think
Mm-hmm.
you know everything. Yeah, what did you think?
It was very hard because it gives the like towards the end it seemed like they were saying, oh, when he was like dumber, he had more friends. I think in that altercation at the cocktail party, in the very end, when he realizes that he's like going to regress like the mouse, and he has this big argument with Dr. Strauss and Professor Niemer.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, when you came, you were likable. I want to find the direct quote. Give me 1 second.
I tried finding it on my phone, the book, and I couldn't get it open. I was just I was more confused by how the friends, what were the names? Fred?
Yeah, Grumpy is interesting name.
Gimpy, yeah.
Gimpy.
How they treated him, Frank, at the end, like why they were suddenly nice just because they pitied him.
That's what I was gonna say, because it's like, so he said, you've developed from a likable, retarded young man into an arrogant, self-centered, antisocial bastard.
Yeah.
And I feel like what made him likable when he was retarded, because it was kind of implied that he didn't have much of a personality. He was just like go with the flow in the sense that whatever everyone says, he will just like go along with it to make them like him. Yeah. Is that what makes him likable? Because like you can
push him around.
Exactly. Like to me, that was kind of like left a sour feeling in my mouth. Why everyone, and this was something that's been echoed throughout, that everyone thinks, oh, he was a lot more nicer. Even Alice, his love interest, one of the main love interests throughout the book, says that when he was dumber, he was more likable, he was more nice. And I feel like I don't necessarily agree with that. Just because you're in a situation of like not knowing, so you think you have friends, but if these people bullied you throughout, and now that you have like some sort of a backbone, like understanding of yourself and the world around you, they turn you away. It's kind of like he's always been alone. It's just that in one of the situations he knows it, and so it hurts more, and in the other where he doesn't know it, and so like he feels accepted. I guess in the end, all that matters is how you feel about the situation, not necessarily the reality of it. I thought that was very interesting, the way that was like done throughout the book.
You're absolutely right about that. He was someone who you could push around, you could mold into whatever you wanted, and he would just be there, he would be happy, he would be smiling and laughing with you, even when he's made fun of. And people just associated that with him being likable. And then when he changed and started developing his own ideas and thoughts and feelings, people attributed that to him being the worst human on earth. Which, yeah, I hadn't thought about that. That's
because then in that altercation also, he then says he realizes that like humility and self-effacement doesn't get you very far in this world. And I think that's very true, because I mean, when he was this likable and such everyone likes him type of person that they claimed that he was nothing more than a mere janitor. But now that he kind of has this sort of deeper enlightenment, he's able to like do more things. And even at one point, he's like so obsessed with the betterment of like getting more people to be intelligent. He's so absorbed in his research to do something good for society, but everyone else seems to hate him or resent him for that reason. I thought was so like that was the main part that got me so angry, because it was just this recurring like idea that just because he couldn't think for himself, he was better off.
Yeah.
And they even ask him like, oh, if you think you're better off when you were a moron, and he says yes in some ways. And I can see that because then you wouldn't know all these painful and hurtful things about the world, you know? Like it's almost like a kid growing up and realizing like the world isn't all rainbows and sunshines the way I thought that it was. That was very powerful as well.
One of my favorite parts about this book is how it captured his like naivete in the beginning, and his ignorance and his childlike hopefulness, right? And that's what he is in the beginning. He's very pure. He just wants to do better, and he wants other people to be happy, basically. And then you watch him get smarter and smarter, just a little bit, and then you start to see the wheels turning in his head. He starts to he starts to absorb a lot of the things that are going on, and then he starts to realize things like his friends are actually bullies, and he starts to get angry. And just before that, I think you watch him kind of develop empathy, because there's a point where he was still justifying things for his friends, and the empathy is just so clean cut. And then he starts to see like the problems with the world, and he starts to get smarter and smarter, and then he starts to feel you can see the lack of sort of empathy and emotional development when he's in social interactions. He realizes he's smarter than people, but he doesn't understand why the people are behaving the way they are. And then you get to see when he's at his peak, and now suddenly he has this whole commitment to give back to the world, to help others.
Yeah.
And like past his confusion, past his empathy, past his anger, and now he's here. And then in the decline, then you start to see him going a little bit crazy, him being a little hopeless, him being a little more reckless at times. And I don't know, this development just really resonated so much for me.
Yeah, I was gonna talk about that. And it's interesting that you called that his peak, because I had drawn a graph, and I'm gonna describe this graph. On the x-axis is his intelligence, and on the y-axis is I say care for herself, how much he cares about like finding out about himself. I had drawn it as like a squiggly line, like going up and down, as in the more intelligent he gets, at one point he cares so much about himself and his past and his future, and at some point he cares not as much about himself because he wants to better the world. I thought it was him going up and down, but you would see it more as an N, right? A parabola.
Well, I was thinking more about just his intelligence, but because I mean that's sort of it's a curve. But I guess I didn't really think of it as a graph, because I was just thinking it's how we all are as we go through life, right? And when he becomes super self-absorbed, it sort of makes sense, because he's finally seeing clearer. It's the first time he's had empathy. It's the first time he's experienced anger, and it's the first time he's learning about himself. And he knows how smart he is. And then when you see him be super absorbed, and that's probably when you're attribute, like, this is before he starts to help the world, right? He starts to give back.
Yeah. So like around July here, I have it here, July 31st is when he has this kind of epiphany where he stops caring about like finding out about himself, and he's like, life and work are the most wonderful things a man can have. I am in love, keyword, with what I'm doing, because the answer to this problem is right here in my mind, and very soon it will burst into consciousness. I was very I took note of the fact that here, so this is his definition of what it means to be fulfilled in life, right? And then later, when he has that, he finally has his moment with Alice. He then describes love completely differently, talking about how it's like basically that's the real definition of like being fulfilled, and like why people need it so much, not as much as life and work, because nature is naturally opposing, right? Like from the Big Bang, the atoms are like splitting, everything is going apart, and so like love is this counter force that like brings you together, and that's why it feels so wholesome. I thought it was so profound, because like at that moment he's clearly not as smart as he used to be, but you can see that in living life his emotional intelligence has gone up, because I feel like that's one of the only ways you can really gain emotional IQ is just through lived experience. And so in that, finally having that part of his being finally being illuminated by having this he's had sex before. It was with someone he didn't find as a deep of as deep of as deep of a connection as he did with Alice. And so in that moment, finally discovering that part, he realizes that is the true kind of part of humanity. And then to relate to like life in general, like for real people, not fictional. I think there is like a part in our lives growing up where like we stop caring about like um us ourselves as much and start caring about wanting to contribute to society in a meaningful way and finding a purpose. But I also feel like there is a point after that where you start to go back to caring about yourself. I think that also happens in the book. That's why I thought of it more as like a squiggly up and down line, because then you start to think about family and like your kids, and that's like an extension of yourself. Because even in the part where he visits the home for people like him.
Yeah.
He's like he sees the blind people and them like being fulfilled by just the fact that they're able to like help others like him. Because I think one of them was holding a baby and like feeding them and whatnot. And I feel like even as someone with not as high of an IQ, you understand that like sense of fulfillment from having that human affection and human interaction. I think that was one of the most important things in the book that like hit me hard. Well, not hard, but like hit me.
That was also one of the things that caught me off guard. There are certain places and lines in this book that caught me completely off guard, just because it wasn't the conclusion I had drawn from the experience he had described, and that was one of them. I think the love thing came up again. The importance of love came up again when he was yelling at Professor Niemer, I think, in saying that, like, yes, I'm grateful for what you made me into, but it was when he had the outburst of when, but you keep saying that I'm not a person before, and then eventually he's like, I think that maybe it's where he said the humility thing, and then he brings up, the most important thing in the world is love or something, but the love thing is also just such a small part about the book. So it's very interesting to see that in the short time he also came to the conclusion that was so valued.
Yeah, I feel like there's been something brewing in the background because it's only outwardly expressed, I guess, with his interactions with Alice, but I guess like more implicitly with like his mother, obviously, who he so desperately wants that love from, or like people in general, his friends. Like, it not necessarily has to be like a non-platonic love, right? Love can still be platonic, and so like even in his interaction with his so-called friends, I think he's looking for that love. Because then in that outburst again, he says, "Intelligence and education that hasn't been tempered by human affection isn't worth a damn." I think, and that part also was like that whole progress report of the two monologues between him and his creator, Professor Nemo. I think that was like a good
peak
climax.
Climax.
Yeah. I was gonna say something else. I forgot.
One of the clear things that comes across in this book is that a lot of his deficiencies, at least when he gains intelligence, stems from the fact that he didn't have love and embrace as a child. And then he recognizes that because he didn't get it from his parents, and then he didn't get it from anyone after that. So when Alice comes along and the connection is just different, he really, really struggles to connect and embrace that, and to know how to deal with it without completely freezing up and dissociating.
Yeah. I'm gonna say something and I'm gonna ask if you agree or not. He says search for knowledge drives out the search for love. Do you think that's true?
Yeah.
Yeah? I didn't think so. But I guess at his extent, sure. But I feel like in general, I don't think so. I think he can do both.
I
Do you
think
think like what like they have to be
you
going the
can.
opposite way?
No, you can do both, but the argument here is that when one intensifies, it's sacrifices that one.
Right,
It's not
because
that
you
they
have less
both.
time for it. Mm.
Yeah, it's just that there are cases when this is exactly what happens. Like, for instance, um, a lot of people now are probably going to start focusing on their career,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just going to be the most important thing for them for the next 3 years, and they're not going to pay as much attention to finding a romantic partner as they had at other times in their life.
But then there's also a
That's
stigma
an
that when you
example.
have the right person, like it can elevate you in your search for like some knowledge or things related to that.
I mean, yeah, there is that argument, but mm, I think it's no matter what, you would achieve different things
Mm-hmm.
if you followed the same trajectory alone versus with a partner.
Someone.
Yeah, they can elevate you, they probably don't always. And probably there are times when later on in your life where you sacrifice big decisions for
Mm-hmm.
your partner or because
Mm-hmm.
of your partner, obviously for whatever your priorities are, for instance, like
Mm-hmm.
family or something, but then it just happens. So, I mean, it's funny that when you say that, it's kind of like saying that he blames a lot of the academics for not having done enough work because of experiencing love in their life.
Yeah. Um. Wait. No, it's all leaving my head right now. What was I gonna say? What was I gonna say? No, it's gone.
There are so many moments in this book
I got
that,
it.
yeah,
I got it. Oh, why is it so hard to come out? Um, go ahead. Go ahead.
there are also just a lot of uh, little sub branches that I loved. Oh my God,
I'm
yes.
so sorry, but I just also like the part about human connection. I feel like again at this height of his
Intelligence?
is when he seems to care the least about like relatability and whatnot. When he's absorbed in his work in the lab, like he moves, like he gets a new bed in the lab to stop focusing on Faye, and like he doesn't care much anymore about like interacting
Yeah.
like in a cordial way with everyone else. But throughout before and after that, it seems a lot more important to have that human connection. I think even in his visit to the mental school, he says like even a feeble-minded man can see that like the need for acceptance and whatnot. Do you think then like the super smart people just don't care about that stuff anymore? So you kind of have to be like a lower level of smart to care about what other people think.
No, I think everyone cares about what other people think. I don't think anyone is without this rule, this
Mm.
trait. I think everyone has blinders on the own work they do rather than other people. You know how they say like no one notices you that much.
Mm-hmm.
You like definitely less than what you think.
Mm-hmm.
And then the opposite of that is yeah, you're just you're focused entirely on your impact in your work. And it's definitely probably to some goal,
Mm-hmm.
something. So yeah, I think even the smartest of smart people seek acceptance somehow, some way. You don't think so?
No, I was just asking you.
Yeah.
Cool. What were you gonna say?
There are a lot of small other parts in this book that I really liked. For instance, when he realized that the smart people he looked up to all his life, yeah, sure, till then weren't as smart as they seemed, especially the academics in the building.
Mm-hmm.
And he also recognized their inability to admit their lack of knowledge, their inadequacies in the moment, and he was extremely frustrated by that because I think he thought that it hindered research and knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't he wait? It just reminded me. Didn't at some point he say that the only the only knowledge, the knowledge that is important is what everyone contributes to, something like that.
Oh,
Like
maybe.
I think maybe it wasn't him, it was the professor. That like the sum goal of knowledge is more important than who does it, or I don't know. This is such a bad quote or something. And I thought that was poignant. I have a qualm with Alice being the love interest. She's like, okay, yes, she seems lovely, great love interest, but I don't think it was born in the best way. I think it was born, one, from an unequal power play, because she was his teacher. She was the one that recognized that he had, well, back then, the most empathy, not empathy, but like the most wholesomeness, I suppose, to be used for the experiment. But then she's also the first person to have liked him. That wasn't someone from the bakery, basically, and the first person to show him that attention and that care. And he acts on his emotions quite soon after the surgery, even though he hasn't developed much intelligence yet, on asking her out. And then they go out, and he's like a little child at this point. There's a lot of things he just doesn't understand, and that relationship continues, and he recognizes that as like his first love. But yeah, I mean, I guess this is how some people fall in love, but it
yeah. I
was
mean,
like
he does have
yeah,
mommy issues.
yeah,
And that was brought up every time they tried to do anything, because then like he would have visions of his mom telling him not to do that or whatnot. So it was very clear, like it's an interesting dynamic that they had. And was it the healthiest? No, I don't know. Most ethical? I don't know. I think there are a lot of ethical things at play, if you can call it that, in the book, like the recurring theme of God, or like being dumb as nature's. I think in the conference, the scientific conference, they would say like we've corrected one of nature's mistakes. So it's always, there's been like that theme of like ethical and moral questioning throughout the book. I thought it was pretty interesting. Like I haven't pieced together fully, but he only mentions God, or like he addresses God at very certain times. And I feel like if I paid more attention, there'll probably be a more like a clear relationship there between like what point he is in life and when he talks about God. Because even like towards the end, he's like, "Please God, let this not be true, or let this not be the end," or something like that. Or in the beginning, when he first like his thoughts about God, or from his mom about him praying to God for being smart, or when the nurse was like, "You're tempering with God's will of him, like, like eating from the forbidden tree kind of thing." I thought it was a very interesting um theme in the book that I would want to revisit if I ever do reread the book. But another thing was also the idea of morality without religion. That wasn't as much in the book, but it was just something that I've been thinking about. And so like I saw it in the book, where like I think at one point they were laughing at someone who worked at a bar or something, and he saw himself in them, in the person. But he had also then remarked in his progress report that why is it that we're so much more pitiful of someone like with no arms and legs or whatever, but when it comes to subjects of the mind, it's a lot more fine to kind of like play with them and make fun of them. And that got me thinking again about like morality without religion, if you can have morality without religion. Because I think religion gives like a backbone of like what's morally right and wrong. If there's no religion, then you're just kind of going based off of your vibes and what you think is right and wrong. Obviously, that's not really morality, because it's not a set of rules that you have to follow. It's just like what you feel like. So, like for example, like why do we not eat cats and dogs, but other animals are okay? Like, what's the scale of size for animals that are acceptable to eat and not acceptable to eat? Like
if
with
no one was
rabbits,
watching, would you still do the right thing?
exactly. That's the thing that I was thinking about, and I saw that in the book, and I was like, "Oh, that's pretty interesting." Maybe I'm forcing it because it's something that's been on my mind, but I thought it was interesting.
No, it's a really, really good question. I mean, there is a point where, I mean, he learned about God the same way the rest of us, on average, maybe did, where your parents speak about the name, and you know that you pray sometimes or something, and you just know he exists, and you don't really know what it is. if you know more, good for you. If you don't, whatever. And then later on, there is a point where he realizes that questioning the existence of God is an option, because to him it was just never a thought. And I think a lot of people, especially now, have also thought of that. That's fascinating. And he has some sort of morality within him. I mean, he's also seemingly partly religious. It's not really conveyed, but I thought it was really interesting when he bumped into the pregnant lady, and it was leading as if they were about to sleep together, but then the lady revealed that she was 5 months along, and he doesn't really depict his reaction, like his thoughts about it, but you just get what he says immediately after, which is, that's, how could you do that? How could you have insinuated that I can sleep with you? Like, I can't, this is, I think it's against God's will or something. He said that's disgusting.
But you think that's him having
Interesting.
morality?
He links it later back to something else, something with his family, I think.
Yeah.
So I think so. I think it's, and I don't know, like it brought up something with God as well at that point. And I don't know, this was one of the points where his reaction was a bit unexpected, just because how strong and how certain he was in that moment.
Okay. I didn't think about that part too much. Ooh, I don't talk about him, and we haven't talked about the mouse at all.
Algernon, I was also thinking of him. You should
Um,
name your mouse Algernon.
no, I'm not. No. Yeah. What did you think about that relationship?
I was confused by Algernon's behavior at first.
So basically, the mouse is like the guinea pig.
The one that survived the longest.
Yeah, the longest, and so like they develop a bond because he's the one that they're comparing the human trials against. But yeah, continue.
And then at some conference, for some reason, Charlie develops this impulse for chaos and recklessness. And at first, he holds himself from doing it, but then he lets Algernon out, and it causes utter pandemonium. And then eventually, he finds Algernon. He speaks to Algernon, and then he takes Algernon with him, and they live together until Algernon dies, and he develops a relationship. I don't know. I don't know what to make of it.
I feel like in a way, like the mouse is a direct parallel to himself, because like when he meets Faye is when they bring a female companion for the mouse as well, right? It seems very much like he's like living the same life as Aja, and that's why they have this special connection to the point where like everything Algernon does is then like repeated by, if I don't know if you noticed, but it's repeated by him. So at the point where like he stopped caring about his female companion is after that, and then he stopped caring about Faye, and then the point where he starts being like erratic and like throwing himself against the edges of the maze. After that is when Charlie also starts getting angry and like throwing tantrums about not being able to remember stuff the same way Algernon used to, and then obviously towards the end he becomes like lethargic and like staying at one place same way. Eventually Charlie starts to do the same, so it kind of felt like the mouse was kind of foreshadowing his life, like living his life like one step ahead of him.
I mean, I think that's like the obvious side of things, because he was literally the one that got the experiment, and then the operation, and then Charlie's the one that got it because it was successful for Algernon. But I think what's more interesting is the other parallels. For instance, why did Charlie feel pity for the mouse? Because I mean, in the beginning, Charlie didn't understand why the tests that the mouse was going through were reward based. And skipping ahead, when Algernon was living with Charlie, it's the first thing he changed, that to let Charlie do the tests without enticing him with a reward at the end, a piece of cheese, to just let Algernon have free will of just doing it because he wants to.
No, but he was
That's what
looking
Algernon
for a
changes.
different reward that wouldn't be as like primal as like the need for survival, which is food. And then he finds out that to the mouse, to this very intelligent mouse, success is its own reward. I was gonna talk about that after, but yeah, continue.
No, I mean that's it. That's exactly it.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting then that he had realized that success is its own reward. I feel like in like life, just generally growing up, like you're kind of like, oh, you do good in your test, we'll get you this, you get you that. I didn't necessarily grow up with that, so it was interesting to then see like that realization that success is its own reward. Because to me, it's always kind of been the case. Like obviously with small things, like sure you would like to reward yourself for stuff after you've done a good job, but in for most of the part, like I had attributed like doing stuff for like the feeling of like you get after doing it, not necessarily of the feeling you get after you've gotten yourself something for doing the task. Because then it seems like if you didn't have to, you wouldn't have done the task. But if it's like for a good cause that you see for yourself, then it's more like, oh, I don't need to reward myself with food at the end of doing this. Like success is its own reward. What did you think of that?
I mean, I'm happy with all the conclusions they sort of made with this book. I'm happy that they stated this as a fact. I'm happy that, I mean, in the same way that I'm happy that his eventual point was he realized he needed to fulfill his life purpose, and that he had a life purpose and it was to help other people. I don't know. It kind of reaffirms the trajectory that I'm on, I suppose, throughout this whole book, which it's nice. I mean, and this, I haven't looked into anything like behind the scenes of this book, but it came out as like research afterwards. I have no idea what else to call it, but it came out a while ago, right? Because
I think it's an old book.
I think yeah. I mean, there were clues from it. Oh, by just how much things cost. Everything was like what rent was under $100 or something. I was like, oh, okay, this is probably like for a month.
Yeah.
I was like, this is probably a really old book. So I feel like I want to say it's ahead of its time, but it's just relevant now. And that's
But can you really say ahead of its time when it's about like the human experience?
No, and that's what I love about it. And you said something so so important yesterday. You said that because I said that, oh, this book is really relevant to the period that I'm in now, and you said that that's what makes it a good book, right?
Yeah. Whenever you read it, you're gonna feel like it's relevant.
It's relevant.
Yeah.
What did you think about the success?
I thought it was very wholesome because then in the end, the last thing he says is to put flowers in the grave for
oh my god,
for the mouse.
that's where I really almost cried.
That was very hard.
If you have a chance,
yeah,
please.
exactly.
Oh, he always had such a humane side for Algernon. Like, why are you making him work for a reward? He should be able to just eat when he wants to. And then that evolved into the do things because success is a reward in itself. And then he wanted a humane burial for Algernon once he found out what it was, and he gave him Algernon leeway to. I was just thinking he gave Algernon his own space.
Yeah.
And leeway to be angry, to not want to work. You watched him feel frustrated, and I liked when he, told Faye not to bother Algernon. You know, he really cared for this mouse, and I mean, he also just felt quite a connection to it. But yeah, a little bit unexpected when it first came up. I didn't expect him to. I didn't expect that to have been the next part of the book. Yeah.
Because then, yeah, I was, because even in the end when he's finally gone back, like he seems like he's satisfied, right? That he's had success in what he wanted to do, which was to get a little bit smart, and that is its own reward. So then he's happy enough to go to the Warren home, even in his like ignorance, being the regressing, in terms of his emotion, his intelligence. He like feels like content, very happy with what he had done. That a dumb person had contributed something to science, and he spelled science very wrong. Such a such a nice moment in the book, definitely.
It was really, you really felt his pain towards the end because you knew that he was going to die, and you knew that he was going to, you know, lose his intelligence slowly by step, and even he knew the indicators of what his decline would look like, which was heart-wrenching. I mean, he knew the answers he should give in the Rorschach test, but he had forgotten the answers. He knew that when he started bumping into things, that it was his motor skills degrading, and I don't know, I mean, so many things in life are that, right? Like if you get cancer, or if you're just getting older and you feel yourself, having a little more trouble with your joints and your muscles or something, you just know it's just because of age.
Yeah. He'd even contemplated suicide.
Honestly, it's something I had thought about for a long while, and I don't want to suffer like that and know like that towards the end. So I was really glad he brought that up. I'm I mean, I was curious why he didn't take it up, just because of he knew like the path he was going down. But
Yeah, I think it wasn't it after the moment of like pure, like the out of body experience he had in the last episode. I think is what had brought him back down, because I think he said he felt a tugging. I think that was like the old Charlie, or the other Charlie. That's something we didn't even talk about either. Like the fact that there were two Charlies. It gave very much like Fight Club. Because when he got drunk is when the other. Anyways, um. But yeah, that it would tug him back down. I think that
I
like
haven't watched Fight Club. That's why I don't know this reference. I was thinking of the one with Robin Williams that we watched recently.
no.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because when he got drunk is when like other Charlie show up, and then he also mentioned that
Original Charlie.
he looks like, yeah, he's been looking at life through a window.
Yeah.
And I couldn't understand what that meant for the life of me, so I'm gonna ask you because I still don't understand it. I feel like it means something, but I can't get it.
Well, the obvious one is that he spent his whole childhood behind the window, just watching everything go on. I mean, this was something that was, actually just creepy, right? The whole time that he conjured up this, I mean, not even conjured up, but Charlie, the old version of himself was there, and he called him by his name. It was Charlie. At the age, it was a kid, right? And he was just watching this new smart guy, and eventually towards the end they switched again.
That's another thing, though. From the beginning, he's been referring in his memories to Charlie as a third person.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Calls him by the name Charlie. This is one of the things. So okay, well we'll get more into this later, but it's a very common neurodivergent thing. I think is that you feel that there are two minds within you and two bodies in that sense. So this sort of made sense. That the other part of him just didn't die off. It being so literal and so almost like tangible was a little bit beyond me. And when it acted upon him was a little bit strange. Like when the Charlie wasn't behind the window, but like beside him, beside the tree or something. But times when he would disassociate, when he would freeze up, when he would just not even know what happened because other Charlie stopped him, was like made sense.
You should watch Fight Club.
Okay.
Another thing was when he started realizing that like his time is coming up,
Yeah.
that She mentioned something about no time to read and write. That made me think that if I'm taking like things like this for granted, do you think so?
Oh my god. So yeah, I definitely had a point in reflection. Like, wow, I'm not dying. He was dying.
Mm-hmm.
I still have this time to learn more, to follow my dreams, to contribute to science and furthering knowledge. That definitely had come up for me.
But if the book was basically like a speed run of like someone living out his life, I feel like then there's definitely like, I think in real life, like living a long life still, I feel like you're gonna feel like, oh, there's not much time left to do certain things that you wish you had done more. I was thinking, what's something that I think I would wish that I would have done more when I'm older.
We can talk about this in the childhood episode.
Oh yeah, we can. Okay.
I just think a lot of things will relate to that. You go further down this path. Yeah. I like how they showed how he initially had I think he had just given up, right? He just stayed home, didn't do anything. And then he realized like, oh, I should still try. And he still kept up his reading and his efforts or something. And that was nice.
When do you think he was his happiest?
I think that's the big topic that we just haven't covered yet.
The right amount of smart.
Well, the whole like, do you think if he had to do it over again, he would choose the same process? Because as we've said over and over again, ignorance is bliss. And second to that, if it were you and you knew that this was the two outcomes, what would you pick? What would you do?
Okay, first question. What was the first question?
What do you think he was ultimately happier with?
I think his happiest moment. Oh, you mean like in terms of
Happier. Because there was a little bit of a sense of regret towards the end. Not so far to say as regret, but he definitely recognized more and more sort of like ignorance is bliss. I would have still been happy. Especially when in his report he recommended that this not be done to anyone else.
Yeah.
Which I felt was so powerful because I think that was something that took me back as well. I didn't expect for someone like him to have said that after all the work he did, all the experiences he went through. It was another marker of
I mean, I had interpreted that. That's very interesting. I had interpreted that as him not recommending anyone to do it or anyone else was like a purely scientifically backed thing. In sort of, if you know that it's like it's gonna end up in death, like don't do it. Obviously, he was the experimental one. I think it was very much like he was very angry or disappointed with what the outcome had been, but towards the end, it felt very much like, and maybe that was old Charlie talk, original Charlie talking, but it felt very much like he was happy that he had got to live out this thing that he so desperately wanted at the beginning, which was to become a little bit smart. That's how I had seen it. And so to answer the question, I would think that if the book was to be written again, I think he would still do it. And I think that I would do it. I think if I was in this situation, that I would I would take it. But I think that's just the curiosity in me wanting
I just think it's just grass is greener on the other side. Like if someone told you, even if someone pleaded you and tried to convince you that no, Caleb, ignorance is bliss, you're going to be so much happier this way, it wouldn't be enough. You'd have to just find out on your own.
I do it, yeah. You? Both questions.
I mean, I would argue that he was happiest when well, we don't really know much of his life before, but I really want to say that that was when he was happiest. I mean, I guess he was sort of in a position where he recognized that he wouldn't get much smarter, but he was still trying every day, and he had friends, and he would laugh when they laughed, and he just didn't know enough to probably ever question, the fact that he's getting bullied, the fact that his parents just left, his family was gone, and it really seemed like he was forgetting a lot of his past, and he just knew certain facts like, oh, I'm not as smart as everyone else, I need to get smarter. when he.
It seemed like the parts that he knew were the ones that he was reminded of on a daily basis. Because he didn't even know his mom and dad's name.
Yeah. Or their faces. I mean, for the longest time, he didn't know their faces either.
Yeah. I would say, I feel like also maybe when he was like, at the very beginning when he was starting to get smart, because everyone was like on his side at that point. Like he had just gotten the promotion at work, and that was before they started like turning on him. They were just impressed by the fact that he could work the machine.
Yeah.
And that he was starting to get to know Alice more. Very much when he was like at the same level, I would say, as most other people. Intellectually.
But I don't think he was happy then. I think he was angry and he was confused. He was angry when he went back to do that test and he was like, "This isn't what you said before," but it turned out to be the same thing. He didn't realize that him being able to work the machine was significant, and he didn't realize that the responses around him were getting more positive. To him, it was just, I seem to be doing something that's making other people happy.
So you think in that moment he still didn't understand what he was doing?
Yeah. And even like with Alice, he didn't understand why they couldn't just be together. Why, because she initially, why they couldn't like have time alone together, something like that. And why things were complicated, I don't know, there was a bunch of reasons there, and he was just feeling really frustrated. And eventually like angry, he yelled at her, he did lash out or something. So it's kind of, I don't think thinking about it now, I don't think at any point he was satisfied with his intelligence. He was never called to question whether he was satisfied with his intelligence, because he just kept getting smarter. And then eventually he got smarter than every person. So, and then he was angry that no one was as smart as he is, because he thought that people should be in order to contribute properly to science, which was what he valued and all of that.
Would you do the experiment?
In the most inhumane way possible, yes. Because if I can dedicate my life, I didn't think I was this devoted to like knowledge and education, but he contributes a lot in the 2 months where he was literally the knower of all things. Pretty much like probably anyone could consult him about any field, and he'd be able to give really, really good advice or something. And I mean, I could probably help a lot of people being that smart and advancing
in the
and
most
leaving it
inhumane way.
Because I'm essentially giving up everything of myself, my life, my wants, my needs, everything, just to give the world something.
So you'd only do it if you were like elaborate.
I'm essentially just sacrificing my whole life as just being a tool, because it's like, well, if someone can be that smart and do these things, it would help so much more than what the life is worth, I suppose. And yeah, I mean, that was a super cruel way of saying it. So, I mean, that's when I would do exactly what he did. I wouldn't waste time. I wouldn't waste time reading, learning more languages, seeing and fixing the world some, and not even sleeping, because it's a waste of time. And then I would choose the suicide option, because I'm not going through that pain. I'm not. Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, so when he visited the institution before, just to see where he would end up, it's just a grim place. And sort of knowing that is where he ultimately ended. I mean, I kind of hoped he stayed at the bakery, but he was making people sad, and he recognized that. He didn't know why, but he was told why, but he didn't understand. And he, again, self-sacrificed and went to the house, probably also because he was the Warren home. Yeah, because he was probably deteriorating more and more and more. But
about that part of visiting the institution, also something very minor, but I was just thinking about it at the time, so I caught onto it. But when they were interviewing the lady, and she had said that like something about normal kids grow up too fast, and so like it's nice to have like a baby forever. I thought, but then also it thought like, is it like, does the reasoning matter if it's for a noble cause, just like in general?
This is sort of this is one of the main things in my life that I am struggling with right now, actually. The idea of like, yeah, people can have other reasons for why they do things. It's just nice that they do it at all. I can't control them. It probably would be nicer if it was for a more self-sacrificing reason, but that's just me, and I can't expect that of people. It's an unrealistic expectation. But it's the whole side of me that wants to see the better in people, and I can't handle the fact that not everyone is willing to self-sacrifice as I think I am. So again, yeah, that was actually, it's quite selfish of her actually in that instant, because she wants to feel needed. And therefore she's now in a job that is, doing great things and all of this. And end of the day, it doesn't matter that that's her reason. It's not the most evil one in the world. But it's a little bit...
Yeah, because I was thinking like, okay, then in like friendships or relationships, if like I feel like a lot of the times during conflict, it's not even about what the person is doing, but rather the principle of why they did it, or like what they were thinking in that moment. So maybe it is context specific, but like for me, I think the reason definitely very much matters to how much like I will respect for doing something. Like if you do something out of the kindness of your heart versus and then again, it's like, can you ever do something out of the kindness of your heart? But for argument's sake, if you do something out of the kindness of your heart versus doing it because you think that someone else will like you for doing it, then it's like,
sort of like The Good Place and the scoring, huh?
I don't know. I didn't know you watched The Good Place.
It's one of my favorite shows of all time.
Of course it is.
Oh my god. I didn't know you watched it. I used one of the quotes for my senior course, something like that,
Yeah, so that also like bothered me a little bit.
Yeah, well, what
another thing. Faye put a new log on her door when he started becoming less smart. I thought that was kind of interesting because it had given that she had no care in the world, or like she didn't care about burglars. But then it kind of seemed like, okay, then like, is being a Moran worse than being a burglar? Like,
the thing is, I don't think it was that, because you really just didn't know about what he was like when he wasn't lucid. Because it seemed like towards the end he was slipping in and out of. So have you heard? Do you know lucid?
Smart Charlie.
Do you know what lucid means?
Like, I know lucid dream.
No. So did it stop recording?
I think my computer died.
Oh, my phone is still recording.
Okay. I can't take it.
Yeah.
Okay.
What? Oh my god. Okay. Anyways, so when someone has Alzheimer's, sometimes they become lucid, and which means that they remember who they are, what is happening, what life is, without realizing they have Alzheimer's. So it's like you just get the person back again, but it's very temporary. It's probably just a few hours, and then they're back to Alzheimer's. It's like Rose in this book. Remember, there was a time, a moment where she clocked that it was Charlie, and a grown-up Charlie, but then she wasn't conscious again. So he only wrote when he was lucid. I kind of think that he was hopping in and out of being more conscious of what is happening and less conscious. Like when he was drunk, he just completely disassociated, and he didn't remember anything. Like he was like when he was back to old Charlie. So there are chances that he had very questionable behavior in the moments in between
But questionable in the sense, the way that his mom thought it was questionable when he was like...
No, you sort of get a sign of it when Alice tells him a little bit about what's happening. Like, I think there was a moment when he was very, like, angry, I think.
Because she had moved his records.
No, that he wasn't conscious of. And I don't know, it just seems like it's hard to say. So when I heard that Faye put the lock on, I assumed it's because he I don't know, maybe he got super, super angry and at the whole fact that he was losing his intelligence. Or it could be that he behaved like a child again and it really creeped her out. I don't know. Because, I mean, remember he said that he didn't really... There are a lot of things he doesn't remember. I didn't understand, like, why he didn't have money for rent. I suppose, like, remember there was a point where the professor came and Alice came when they paid their rent, but a lot of unknown things about, why he wouldn't speak to them and things like this. I don't know. There was just more and more gaps towards the end. You thought it was just because he was just becoming old Charlie?
No, I was just thinking, yeah, because then that's a parallel between, like, now and then younger Charlie, where, like, just because he was, like, dumb, even though he didn't want to hurt his baby sister, like, his mom was always, like, worried about what he was going to do. I was thinking the same, like, in the same that Faye kind of got that sense of, like...
Like the ache or something?
Not the ache, but more just, like... thinking that he was gonna hurt her or somebody, but then if it's like him slipping between old Charlie and new Charlie, old Charlie wouldn't hurt a thing. It was kind of like she considered that bad enough to put a lock on, but not like a burglar coming into her place and like causing damage.
I mean, the super meta thing would be to think, remember old Charlie was there when they first slept together, and new Charlie sort of forced old Charlie out or something. It could be something that was there. But I almost think that old Charlie wouldn't know who Faye is. If he was literally switching between new and old. Because remember towards the end, old Charlie didn't even know love interest, what's her name? Anne? Alice. And he started calling her Miss Kenyon again. And I think that's because because old Charlie didn't know that he had a relationship with Alice and so yeah. Highly recommend this book. Quick read.
It is.
It reminded me of Catch in the Rye, and then I suggested you, and you didn't know the book.
I didn't know the book.
But wow.
I don't know books. Okay.
So, what do you think happened with